Welcome back to Moments of Horror. Today, R is for run. It was past midnight when the phone rang. Elliot had been asleep, exhausted from another long shift at the mechanic's shop, but the shrill tone snapped him awake. He reached for the receiver, his heart already hammering before he even heard the voice on the other end. Dad? It was Sophie, his 17-year-old daughter. Her voice was barely a whisper, trembling. You have to come get me. Right now. Elliot shot up, his pulse a storm in his ears. Where are you? I'm at the old rest stop on Route 19. But Dad, please, don't ask questions. Just come. And hurry. The line went dead. Elliot didn't hesitate. He threw on his jacket, grabbed his keys, and was out the door in minutes. His truck roared to life, tires screeching as he pulled onto the road. He didn't know what had happened, why Sophie was out there alone, why she sounded so scared, but none of that mattered right now. The only thing that mattered was getting to her. The night was pitch black, the only illumination coming from his headlights as they cut through the fog rolling over the two-lane highway. Route 19 was mostly deserted at this hour, an old road that few people used anymore. It led out of town, past a stretch of thick woods, and toward the abandoned rest stop Sophie had mentioned. As Elliot neared the destination, he spotted her, a lone figure standing under the flickering light of the rest stop's canopy. She was wearing her hoodie, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. He pulled up fast, throwing the truck into park. Sophie! He jumped out, rushing toward her. Are you okay? What happened? Sophie looked up at him, her eyes wide, haunted. Dad, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We have to go. Now. Elliot didn't argue. He turned to lead her back to the truck, but then he saw them. Two figures stood at the edge of the woods, barely visible in the dim glow of the overhead light. They weren't moving, just watching. A chill ran down Elliot's spine. Sophie, who are they? He asked, keeping his voice low. She shook her head violently. I don't know. They've been following me. She stopped, her breath catching. Dad, they're coming. Elliot turned back to the figures, but now they were gone. He didn't waste another second. He grabbed Sophie's hand and pulled her toward the truck. Get in, now. They slammed the doors shut, and Elliot turned the key. The engine roared to life. That's when the pounding started. A hand slapped against Sophie's window. Pale, long fingers pressing against the glass. A face appeared, just beyond the edge of the light, expressionless, inhumanly still. Drive, Dad, Sophie screamed. Elliot didn't need to be told twice. He stomped on the gas, peeling out of the lot, the truck fishtailing as it sped down the highway. Sophie was breathing hard, clutching the dashboard. Elliot glanced in the rearview mirror. No one was there. The road behind them was empty. He exhaled sharply. Sophie, tell me what's going on. She was shaking. I don't know. I was at Morgan's house, hanging out, and when I left, they were just there. At first, I thought it was a trick, but no matter how far I ran, they followed me. I kept running, Dad. I ran until I couldn't anymore. Elliot clenched the wheel. It's okay, sweetheart. I got you. They drove in silence, the tension thick, until their small house finally came into view. Elliot parked in the driveway, still glancing over his shoulder. Nothing. No figures. No signs of pursuit. Maybe it was over. Inside, Elliot locked every door, every window. Sophie sat on the couch, still trembling. You're safe now, he assured her, brushing a hand over her hair. We're home. Sophie nodded, but she still looked uneasy. Dad, those things, I don't think they were people. Elliot frowned. What do you mean? I mean, they didn't move like people. They didn't blink, and when they whispered... She stopped short, eyes darting toward the front window. Elliot followed her gaze. His stomach turned to ice. There, standing in the driveway, just beyond the porch light's reach, were the two figures. Still, silent, watching. Sophie gripped his arm. They found me. They always find me. Elliot's voice was firm. To stay inside. Lock the back door. He reached for the drawer, pulled out the old revolver he hadn't touched in years, and stepped out onto the porch. The night was cold, but the air felt thicker than it should have, like walking into a room mid-prayer, something unspoken hanging between dimensions. Elliot aimed the gun. "Leave us alone." But the figures didn't move. Instead, one slowly raised its arm and pointed directly at him. Then the other one smiled. Elliot blinked, and they vanished. Gone. No trace, just the wind brushing the trees and the porch creaking beneath his feet. He stood there for several minutes, heart pounding, eyes scanning the darkness. Nothing. When he turned to go back inside, he saw something that hadn't been there before, scratched into the wood of the door. One word, run. He stared at it, frozen. But when he stepped inside, Sophie was already packing a duffel bag. "I think I know what they are," she said, trembling. "I saw them once before, years ago, right after Mom died." Elliot's throat tightened. "What do you mean?" Sophie looked up, her eyes full of something deeper than fear. "I think they come for people who stop running, people stuck in grief, people who can't move forward." She opened the duffel and handed him a flashlight. "They don't kill. They wait. They watch. They slow you down. And when you're too heavy with the past to keep moving, they take you." Elliot felt the truth settle in his bones like frost. The years he'd spent refusing to talk about his wife, the long nights in silence, the dreams of a life that stopped moving forward. Sophie zipped the bag shut. "We can't stay. Not anymore. We run, Dad. We run now." He nodded slowly, quietly amazed by the courage in his daughter's eyes. They climbed into the truck, headlights cutting through the dark once more. Behind them, the porch light flickered out, and as the miles rolled under their tires, Elliot glanced at Sophie, her face lit by the dashboard glow. She reached over and squeezed his hand. They didn't know where they were going, only that they were going together. And that, for now, was enough. Because sometimes love isn't about standing still. Sometimes love means knowing when to run. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time for another spooky tale. I'm KG Heartstopper, and always remember that you matter, you mean something. Go be kind.